Good evening. Thank you all for coming. If everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome. My name is Susan Iannucci, and this is Maureen Brown, and we are co-presidents of the East Rockaway High School PTA. This evening, we will have the opportunity to hear from our four candidates for Board of Education trustee: Peter McNally, Kristen Altara, Kristen O'Hagan, and Teresa Della.
Mrs. Pat McCormick from the League of Women Voters will be moderating tonight's event. Amy Kelly and I have volunteered to be timekeepers as the League was not able to provide their own timekeeper. Index cards have been provided. We've selected the cards, and if you have any more questions, you can get a card from one of our PTA volunteers, and you continue throughout the evening. All the candidates have agreed to have tonight's event live streamed, so no other recordings will be allowed. And let me introduce Mrs. Pat McCormick.
As already mentioned, my name is Pat McCormick, and I reside in Fort Washington, which is well outside your voting district, so no horse in this race. I've had the candidates draw numbers to determine the order of speaking, and Mr. McNally has won and is choosing to go first for the opening statement segment. We'll then reverse the order for closing statements. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for opening statements. I will then open the meeting to questions from the audience. Questions will be submitted on cards only. No questions will be taken from the floor. We are vetting the questions because we want to avoid repetition. We hope that none of the questions are personal or even abusive, but I'm confident that that will not be a problem here. Questions may be addressed to the general public, but if a question is asked of a specific candidate, all candidates will be given an opportunity to address that question. You will each have 1.5 minutes for your answer. There will be no rebuttal. I will rotate the order of responses for each question. Amy Kelly and Maureen Brower will be our timekeepers tonight. The timekeeper should hold up the 2 cards so that candidates can see them. Each candidate will be shown a 30-second card, and then when time is up, a stop card. You can finish your sentence, but we will probably yell at you if you go past that. I'll yell at you. Candidates will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Obviously, we do not allow substitutes for the candidates, and we don't allow props, charts, visuals, or campaign literature to be distributed. Live streaming is taking place, and because the candidates agreed to it. As was stated before, we do not allow any smartphone taping, or taping isn't the word, I'm too old. Anyway, we won't allow it recording. We request that you do not applaud for the opening statements or respond vocally or otherwise to any response from the candidates. We have 4 candidates and limited time. You will have an opportunity to applaud at the end when the candidates make their closing statements. Okay, we'll now begin with the opening statements. And that's your first, Peter McNally.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pete McNally. I have chosen to run for the East Rockaway School Board this year because I value education and the partnerships that create a strong school community. I am aware of the economic impact of public education as well as the many benefits it provides to our children. As a parent who has 2 children in the East Rockaway School District, I am proud of the many accomplishments of our schools, I am also aware of some of the concerns you have as community members. I have been an educator for over 18 years. I have taught middle school students and coached high school students. This experience has given me insight into many different aspects of the workings of a public school district. A new voice and a different perspective can help to foster creative solutions to the many problems we face today in our schools. A school board member is elected by the community to represent the community. I think it is very important to continually speak with community members about important issues. I will always encourage dialogue between the board and the community members. East Rockaway is a town steeped in tradition. The public school district has always been the center of that tradition. It is for this reason that my wife Karen and I purchased my grandparents' house in East Rockaway 15 years ago. My mom was a teacher in Center Avenue for 26 years. We love the fact that we are the smallest school district in Nassau County. We are all so fortunate to call East Rockaway home. People who don't live in our town don't understand how special it is, but we cherish it. I want to make sure that tradition and history is carried on to our children and beyond. My main goal is to see students of diverse backgrounds and different ability levels all reach their full potential. As a school board trustee, I would seek community input to represent you and create school policy that would help to achieve this goal. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Optera, and I am currently a school board trustee for the East Rockaway School District. I've served in that capacity for 9 years. When I started my service as a school board member, I did not realize the impact that this would have on my particular growth, not just as a trustee or an advocate, but also as a human being in the world. Being a school board member has allowed me to reach deeply into my own psyche, my own emotional baggage, my own concerns, my own fears, and toss them aside to really deepen my connections with the other trustees that I work with. I moved here 19 years ago after my husband served in the military, and we were choosing a place to live our lives and raise our 2 small children, and we did not think that we were going to stay in East Rockaway. East Rockaway was a place that we came to because there was an opportunity for us to get on our feet here. And yet, within just a few years, we realized that the connections that we were making in this town were running deep, and that the support that we got from our neighbors and our friends and our fellow community members was support of family. East Rockaway is a really important part of our lives. We have found roots. My children have been able to spread their wings, and they have graduated as successful members from East Rockaway High School. Over the course of the past 15 years that I've been an advocate for public education, I've had the opportunity to work not only in our school district, but beyond our school district borders. I currently serve on the Nassau-Suffolk School Board Association, representing our school district with other trustees from across the island. I've been to Albany 7 times to advocate for more for more student aid, for more district aid, to advocate for relief of mandates that we have struggled with over the years to help balance our budget and keep the burden on taxpayers lighter. I've had the opportunity to volunteer in this community as both a Girl Scout leader, a PTA president, PTA member, volleyball coach, soccer coach. I led a group of my respected community members in effort to keep our neighborhood safe with advocacy for the Green Bay Parkers, which was the sewage treatment plant initiative that we took on years ago. And through that, I learned that the voice of this community is much stronger when we put our individual differences aside and we speak with each other to form one goal moving forward. As a trustee, that's what I would do for you.
Kristen O'Hagan.
Good evening. I would like to begin by thanking the League of Women's Voters for moderating tonight's event. Secondly, I would like to thank my family and friends for their continued support and encouragement. For those of you that do not know me, I am Kristen O'Hagan, East Rockaway graduate, 1995, a resident for 42 years. The heart of East Rockaway runs thick through my family, consisting of 4 generations of graduates. I have been heavily involved in serving our community for as long as I can remember. As an educator, having 19 years of public school experience, I embrace the collaborative culture between students, parents, and teachers to promote a partnership between the school and the community. This is essential for our children to develop a solid foundation in their formative years. I am well versed in the phasing in of the next generation standards. I understand the benefits, and I have listened to parental concerns of implementing a universal accelerated program. I believe education should address the needs of the whole child. Where can the skills that I bring to the table make a difference? How can I continue to learn and grow and understand education from another perspective? The answer is by doing my civic duty as a Board of Education trustee, being a part of a board that aims to value and give voice to all members of the community equally. One of my goals is to see the school district continue to move forward while maintaining the traditions that make East Rockaway so unique and special. I welcome the opportunity to be a part of building our future while protecting our taxpayers. Thank you.
And now Teresa Devlin.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to the PTAs for hosting this evening. For those of you who do not know me, I am Teresa Devlin, and I'm excited to be running again for the Board of Ed Trustee. As the parent of 4 children, Katie, class of 2015, Joseph, who's exiting the Life Skills program this year, Javon, a 6th grader at Rain Avenue, and Mason, a 1st grader at Rain, like you, education is important to me. My husband Charlie and I moved to East Rockaway in 1998. It didn't take us long to learn about some of the long-standing traditions that our school community embraces. We saw this district as a little gem, and we chose this district to raise Katie and Joseph, and we are choosing it again to raise our 2 younger boys. Since my oldest started in our public school 17 years ago, my children have experienced the cycle of education: race to the top, no child left behind, high stakes testing, Common Core, and mandatory lockdown drills, just to name a few. Education has changed dramatically, and I have made it a point to stay current and informed. Within our school district, I have been an active volunteer in many capacities. I'm the district's parent representative for CSE and CPSE meetings. I've served on the PTA of 2 schools. I have been a special education representative, and I have accompanied seated board members on day trips to Albany, lobbying for funding for our district. I attend every public Board of Education meeting for the last 11 years, and I annually attend budget work sessions. I have volunteered on the Safety Committee and the Strategic Planning Committee, and for the last 4 years, I have been a director of the East Rockaway Education Foundation, which has raised tens of thousands of dollars for our schools in the form of scholarships and grants. Outside of the district, I am an active volunteer recruiter, parent trainer for foster parents with the Nassau County Department of Social Services. I'm an active foster and adoptive parent. Through all of my experiences in these different roles, I have learned that communication is the key to opportunity. That in order to be effective in creating opportunities for students, there must be open lines of communication among parents, teachers, administrators, and children. The current board has set many new initiatives in motion, and there is a momentum that I would like to capitalize and continue to help move us forward. There are already 3 educators on the board, and as a person with a business degree, I will bring a much needed and valuable perspective, not to mention this perspective I have as a parent of an elementary and then a junior high aged child. If elected on my board, it will be the last of the 5-year strategic plan, and I would like an opportunity to bring that fresh perspective and point of view to set new goals to keep our district moving forward.
Thank you. We're doing the questions now, but before we do that, I would like to remind you that it would be helpful for you to turn off your phones so that the candidates would be distracted. So that I won't be distracted. We'll start our questions with Ms. Altera. Okay. When starting a new job, having some prior experience or knowledge of that, what the job entails, is beneficial. What experience or knowledge do you have regarding a school budget? How many ER budget meetings have you attended? How many advisory meetings have you attended? And we'll begin with Ms. Altera.
Okay, thank you very much. So I feel I have a little bit of an advantage because I have been a seated member of the board for 9 years. So I have attended at least 9 budget seasons, but I actually began my service to the district as a member of the Budget Advisory Committee. So I would say that I've been through the process of delivering feedback on the budget for the past 14 years. Coming to a new job actually is very difficult, and it's helpful to know what you're getting into ahead of time. I can't say that that was my case with coming to the school district. However, it was a quick lesson in how much you don't know and who to reach out to find out what you need to know. So that was very helpful to me when I started here. And considering all of the changes that have happened through district funding and state aid and federal requirements, it has been a journey of continued education over the past 9 years.
Ms. O'Hagan?
I attend the budget hearing to make sure I know what is going on each year. I make sure that I am abreast of what is happening and what our school is spending its money on. As a taxpayer, I want to make sure that my money is being spent wisely, so I do attend the meeting to make sure I know what exactly is going to programming, what is going to administrative costs, and what is going to capital. As far as a new job goes, I think that it is always a learning experience when you start something new. However, when you have a background where you have created budgets and have worked with maintaining budgets, you can bring that to a school board. I have worked in the recreation department for this village where I was able to take that skill and now I can bring it into this particular position.
Teresa Denton.
I have attended the budget advisory sessions for the last 5 years, and I make sure that I'm at those budget work sessions, so this way I can fully understand it by the time the budget hearing comes. I've been able to ask questions and ask specifics and raise my voice of concern because I feel it's very important to know where all the money is being spent and what the plan is. And by the time you get to the budget hearing, when it's being presented, you don't really feel like you have much input because you weren't at the budget sessions where you might be able to raise a question or raise a concern. What I bring to the board is my business background. For 25 years, I was a business manager for the 3rd largest privately owned company in the world. And I bring that knowledge and skill set to the table as far as the Board of Education goes. I also bring a perspective of a parent who has skin in the game long term. My youngest son is going to graduate in 2030, so that's what.
There's no doubt that it's very difficult, a new job, learning everything, the learning curve coming in. I'm kind of fortunate that I have a school business, school administration degree where I took 3 classes in school finance and school budget. So that helped me out a little bit there. I attended the budget presentation this year, and I have to say Ms. Scrio did an awesome job. I went in, and when we left there, we pretty much knew everything. The way she described it, that money is the money that's going to be used for our students, sorry, that's my teacher hat, for our children. So going in there and seeing how well she did that, It's definitely a learning curve for a new person coming in, but it was a great presentation to see.
Okay, our next question is, what new ideas would you bring to the district? And we'll begin with Christabel Kagan.
So I think the most important initiative that should be brought into school districts and should be expanded is mental health. Right now, education law is mandating that at all levels, mental health programs are in place. I live it every day. I see the stress that students feel. I see the anxiety that they experience. So I think we need to offer more programming starting at the younger level. We need to be proactive. Education has changed. It's not the same place it was when we were kids. Our kids are experiencing more stress, more anxiety, and I've witnessed them crumbling in the hallways. So if we could bring more programming, raise more awareness, and teach them how to cope, I think that would be most beneficial as they move forward within schools.
Ms. Devlin?
The goals that I have for the school district is to explore some cost-effective electronic options to receive e-payments from families. I would love to increase course offerings in foreign language, American Sign Language, and I think there needs to be opportunities for all students, especially with a focus on those in the middle of the curve. And I think that since there's going to be a 6-day cycle, that would be able to schedule labs for the Regents classes and studies for those who need it. And if you're pushing in science, we need to push it down to the elementary schools as well. I know that the district has put a guidance counselor in the elementary school before it was a state mandate. So I think that I would think that mental health is also very important to bring down to the schools as well.
Peter Daly?
For me, mental health, it's not even a question. I see it every day in school. The social and emotional health of students, it's the biggest issue facing schools today, not just East Rockaway, but every district. The pressures that are on these kids today, it's immense. I see it in my students, I see it in my own children. The incidents, vaping is so much more prevalent today. Drug addiction, depression, teen suicide, all of those things are up right now because of the pressures that the young kids face today. And it's heartbreaking. I see it, I see the stress my own children are under, I see the stress my students are under, and we need to do something about it. And I know we are, but we need to do more. And when I say we, it's not just East Rockaway, it's the problem that's everywhere. And these are our children. So we really need to do something about it. Thank you.
So what interests me about this question is I get asked it on a regular basis in terms of what new ideas I would bring to the district, or what I see as a problem, or what I see as some direction that we need to go in. And it took me a long time to realize that what I see is typically not as important as what the community sees. So I'm really excited about the initiative that we took 4 years ago to start the strategic planning of the district's goals moving forward. It's allowed us to take input from the community in a way that balances the needs of the 1,200 students in our district, not just the students that I have come into contact with or my own students. It's a wider scope than that. And so by strategic planning and by bringing community members and stakeholders in, we were able to tap into ideas like the 3 people here shared with us of importance, and be able to weigh them and measure them and move them forward as a goal between all of us in the district, and support that through the administration. And the perfect example, like Teresa said, was our identification ahead of time that we were going to need more support in our school district for mental health, and to be able to meet the mandate of the 2020, before 2020, for school counseling. So really, what I think is important is one voice on the board. The 4 other people compile the board in a way that can only be measured by the voice of the community.
Our next question is, what do you support about the proposed bond? What would you change? And the first questions will be from, answer will be from Teresa Devlin.
The bond and its completion hasn't been put forward to the community yet, but from attending the meetings and seeing what I've seen, there are certain physical changes that have been suggested to the building, such as here in this building, the garage area, and they have all different plans for the tech building. From my point of view, I don't know what the numbers are yet because they haven't been presented, but if safety is a concern to this district, then I don't believe the administrative offices should be in the building where the students are, because most of the people that are coming to visit this building that are not parents who have no business in the building, they are visiting the administrators. So I don't really think I would support a bond that did not include getting administration out of the main building where our students are. Thank you.
Ms. McNally?
I was on the facilities tour, and there were a number of things like the repairs at Center Avenue that they have to be done. There's stuff that's falling apart that can't be cut at the bond. So that stuff has to be done. We went around to classrooms and saw the Family and Consumer Science room. It looked like from the 1950s. That's something that and they're gonna, all the plans they had to make it state of the art. That's something I think should happen because that's gonna benefit the kids. So I think stuff like that should definitely happen. As a track coach, I think we should put in a track in. But actually, because I think we're the only district that doesn't have a track in Nassau County. But I know there are more important things than that. But the necessary repairs have to be done. They can't wait because they're just going to get worse. And it's going to cost more money. So I think they need to be done.
Christina Terra?
So what I support most about the proposed bond is the fact that we're looking to have a proposal of a bond this fall. And I think that that's important because of the way financially we can structure it to have as minimal impact to the taxpayer as possible. I don't think it would be responsible in a small amount of time to open a discussion about the bonds tonight because it doesn't get feedback from the community, which I'm looking forward to hearing more of over the course of our meetings, particularly for the bonds. And I think that Pete was right to address the fact that there are things in the district that need to be taken care of that just cannot be maintained over the course of your annual budget, votes and budget allocations. So I think the most important part of the bond moving forward is that it is rolled into our timeline in a way that's going to be as seamless as possible so that the impact to taxpayers will be absolutely minimal.
Christina Hagan?
So when I think about a bond, we're already floating one, and we're going to then move into another. We want to make sure that we are not asking the taxpayers to pay more. We already know that our taxes go up. We pay a lot to live in this district, so we want to make sure that we are at least remaining steady with what is being paid. As far as the items in the bonds, safety is obviously first. We want to make sure that our children are safe in their school. That also means the repairs that need to be made are made. I think that we need to go back and evaluate what are the needs and what are the wants and ensure that we are putting forth to a district a bond that will make sure the taxpayers are being thought of at that time.
My next question is, as a board member, would you be prepared to make some cuts to reduce the budget? And we'll begin with Peter McNally.
Okay. As a board member, you have to make tough decisions sometimes, and sometimes you would have to cut from the budget. Looking at the budget, when we went at the budget hearing that night, the last thing I think any board member wants to cut is programming. because that directly impacts our students, our children. Again, my teacher hat. So I think the one thing that stood out was the administrative costs. And if you look in the Newsday article, it said that East Rockaway spends $4,500 per pupil per year on administration costs, whereas the average in Long Island is $2,900. So that's a big discrepancy. Now, I know that some of that is unavoidable cost, but I think that's something you have to look at.
Okay, Christina Terra?
So we have had to make really difficult decisions in terms of making sure our budgets are not only fiscally sound, but can be carried by the taxpayers. We live in a very, very saturated place where taxes are through the roof, and there is not a huge amount of revenue in East Rockaway to help offset that burden from the homeowner. So homeowners get the majority of the tax burden. With that in mind, I think we have done an incredible job of making sure every year we zero-base our budget. So we take a look at everything with fresh eyes, and we decide where to move forward, what things we're not serving the district in the way that they need to, what initiatives are no longer valuable to us, what initiatives that we are going to need to start or need to be funded, and how to creatively do that. One of the examples that I can use off the top of my head is the way that we have been able to use BOCES for a lot of services and our technology and offset the cost to the taxpayer. So we've been able to take a program with our one-to-one laptop initiative, and we've been able to roll that out for most of the students in our district at a minimal cost. In this year's budget, we're looking at an initiative that's going to cost nearly $100,000, and the final impact to taxpayers will be $19,000 because of E-rate money that we'll be getting back on devices, as well as BOCES reimbursement.
Christina Hagan?
Like both Pete and Kristen said, sometimes you have to make difficult decisions. We don't want those decisions to impact the students. So we want to make sure that we are evaluating programs, we're looking at the needs of the students, we're looking at the trends in education, and sometimes you have to get a little creative with how you are implementing programming. Maybe it's doing more with less. Maybe we don't need certain bells and whistles, but we can ensure that we are providing our kids every possible opportunity to reach their goals, to be innovative. They already have the one-to-one tablets, and then we can look at how maybe things can be restructured. But I think it does take reevaluation of the programming and how that money is being spent.
Teresa Devlin?
I'm confident to say that I have a pretty strong business background, and I would definitely bring that mindset to the table. I think it's important to be fiscally responsible. I think that we do need to look at what the district is doing well and what we're not doing so well, and follow suit and change the programs. Always keeping in mind, we need to do what's best for the students, and try to keep taxes low. We definitely need to be creative with salary and personnel, and I think that it's really important that for the students that we pass a budget while staying under the tax cap, and that's really very important. And I definitely think that I would feel comfortable looking at that, and I would bring some creative suggestions to the table.
Our next question is, what are your thoughts on the EMT course? Do you feel the students would benefit by being affiliated with a healthcare organization? And we'll begin with Kristen Octera.
Excellent. So I think the EMT class is probably one of the most creative initiatives that our administrators are bringing to the table right now. And I think it's a great example of how our team is forming in the high school and looking at programs that we're offering and ways that we can tweak certain things to be able to give our students an opportunity, not just to learn in a way that is different and exciting, but also to give them a hands-on experience and tie that into work that they can be doing right now in the community. So this program, as it stands, will give our students the opportunity to learn valuable skills that they'll be able to transition into multiple fields when they graduate. So we don't have to look at programs that just say, oh, when you go to college, you could be a doctor. Are you interested in medicine? You can be a nurse. That we're able to look at our opportunities and give them the chance to look where their future goes, not just in a one-sided way, where you can say, you know what, this will give you a track to the FDNY. This will give you a track to become an administrator. This will give you a track to volunteer in our community in a way that's desperately needed. And it's initiatives like the EMT class, and I'm very, very proud of our administrators for bringing to the table.
I think anytime that we can offer kids electives that are outside of the required academic classes is a plus. I think that we are offering kids more opportunity and more exposure when we offer classes like the EMT program. I do want to know, as a community member, because I didn't see this, how are we budgeting for that class? Are we hiring new teachers? You know, those are questions that will be raised that we would want to make sure that our community is aware of. Because when you're creating a budget, you are accounting for a certain amount of full-time teachers. Are we restructuring positions that are already there? Are we counting our retirees? We just need that information to be transparent to us, the community.
Teresa Devon?
I think that the EMT course is a great opportunity for the students, especially in a neighborhood such as ours where we have where East Rockaway Volunteer Firefighters is such a big part of the community. It would be great that if we could figure out a creative way that the EMT course could flow into that, and there could be some sort of a partnership made. And I think that looking forward to the 6-day cycle that the school has proposed, I think that that was really a creative way that the district is fitting in these electives. So I think it's a really great idea. That and any increased course offering is a benefit to our students.
Peter McNally?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's an awesome program. It's an awesome idea for the kids to be able to learn those skills and then maybe down the road make a career out of it. Or if not, at least to have that skill. I think everyone's in agreement. It's a great program.
Our next question is, I have attended a few of the sessions. It seems that some board members are reluctant to challenge the superintendent. How will you handle it? And we'll begin with Kristen O'Hagan.
I think that when you're a board member, you have to be a team player, but you also have to be an individual thinker. You need to do your due diligence, you need to research, and you need to make sure that you are serving as that bridge between the community and the district. And if you need to make tough decisions, or you need to maybe not go along with what everybody else is because you have done additional research, you have spoken to other people, you're bringing that voice to the table. A board consists of multiple people, and you need, again, to work collaboratively, but you also need to make sure you are representing the community.
Teresa Devon?
I think I'm an independent thinker. I'm not a yes man, and my level of involvement in the district is a constant, and I know firsthand what it's like to make a change in the district. And I have the voice of a parent who has already achieved change, and I think that that's really essential. I think that part of accepting the responsibility of a Board of Ed trustee is not to just listen to what the superintendent has to say, but to take it, parse it, and form your own opinion, think what the community would want, and follow the programs from there. Thank you.
Peter McNally?
You definitely have to follow your heart. You know what's right, and you have to do that. You have to do what's right. You have to think for yourself. You collaborate with others, but when it's time to make a decision, you have to think about what is right and what is wrong. You're the one who has to live with the decision. So you have to do what you know is right. And that's what I would do.
Christine Otero?
Could you read that question, please?
I've attended a few meetings, and it seems to me, a few sessions, and it seems to me that some board members are reluctant to challenge the superintendent. How will you handle this?
That is a really interesting question. And I think there needs to be clarification on the role of the Board of Education, on the role of a trustee. Because the superintendent and the board work in tandem, and the superintendent does not sit above the board. The superintendent works to implement the decisions of the board, the policy of the board. So, so to get a question that says that we don't seem to be challenging the superintendent, I would actually like clarification in terms of what the perception is that the superintendent would be doing that would require challenging. Because the way it works is that the board identifies its goals through policy, the board identifies its goals through planning, and the board identifies the fiscal responsibility to implement those plans. The superintendent's role is to take that information and then using her professional expertise and the team of administrators under her to implement the vision of the district. So the role of a trustee is certainly to stick up for what they believe in and to identify their passions. And I wouldn't think that anybody in the role would need to be submissive. But certainly the role of a trustee is to educate themselves on law and appropriate interactions with the other trustees in setting policy.
Our next question is, what do you think is the biggest issue facing our district? And what's your plan to help solve it? And we'll begin with Teresa Devlin.
I think the biggest problem facing this district is we always did it this way as a mindset. I think that's counterproductive to the kinds of changes that continue to be needed in order to educate the children of today and tomorrow. The kind of transformational change that has occurred within our schools, programming, security, technology, does not happen without taking a hard look at what we already did well and where improvements are needed. Big decisions are sometimes uncomfortable, and changes need to be made in order to simply comply with the new standards and for us to stay competitive.
All right, Peter?
I think the biggest issue facing our district, and we spoke about it earlier, is mental health. I see it way too many times. More needs to be done. The social and emotional health of our children is of the utmost importance. It's more important than anything else, because if they're not emotionally and socially healthy, then everything else suffers. Their whole life suffers, and it's everywhere. It's every district. It's all over the place. We need to do more about it. And again, I don't mean just us. It's everywhere. Every district needs to do more about it. The pressures they're facing are so bad, just so much. The pressures are so much. We need more mental health programs, more counseling, more professional development for teachers dealing with mental health issues. And I don't think it's going away. I think it's just going to get worse.
Christine Otero?
So before tonight, I would probably say that the biggest issues facing East Rockaway schools are the same issues that face districts across Long Island. And they would be financial issues, lack of state funding, appropriate resources in terms of fulfilling mandates. And that is something that could just be repetitive, on and on. But you know what? This is my 4th time being at a Meet the Candidates night. And I think that it's important because it's not a debate. It's here's a question and what's your answer? And if I'm being perfectly transparent here, I have to say that one of the biggest issues facing our district at this time is I think a misunderstanding of the district's goals and vision. And I think that there seems to be perhaps maybe some communication glitches in that maybe we are not getting information out correctly, or the information that's being shared is incorrect and no one is working to challenge that incorrect information. So I am getting the feeling that there's a lot of misinformation being circulated in the community, and I think that the district needs to make sure that the information can be clarified as often as possible. And I think it also relies on community members who are involved to step up and give their perspective in meetings that they've attended or initiatives that they've been a part of to share the correct information.
So I want to piggyback off of Pete's response in regard to the mental health of students, and also bring that full circle with the Universal Accelerated Program, because that program is now pushing forward some high school material to the younger grades, and it is opening up doors for students to be able to take more programs as they move through the high school process. I think that we need to make sure that as this program unfolds, we're offering the proper support for the students. Sometimes at the middle school level, you have kids that are not academically mature enough for the material. And I don't mean that those are necessarily your failing students. Those could be your middle of the road students that just need extra support. So making sure that we're offering that support. As they move forward, and let's say we've opened up more programming for AP classes, and their students are now in their junior and senior year, sometimes they wind up taking AP and college level courses, and it's overload for them. So we just want to make sure that we are offering them the support needed, and we are being proactive rather than reactive with that support.
Our next question is, what would you do about the increasing number of students in the elementary schools? That's Peter McNabb.
Well, we had the same problem when my daughter started at Center Avenue, and a third section was created. And I know I've heard that concern from a few different parents. And if there are too many kids in the class, the instruction is going to be watered down. There's just, especially at the younger grades. With the older kids, it's different, but at the younger grades, I think it's pretty important to figure out how to get another section in, get a third section in to lower the class sizes.
Great. So historically, we have had about 132 more students in district than we do right now. Over the past 10 years, we've seen an overall decline in the number of students that we have, but that doesn't necessarily reflect itself on grade level. At any given moment, you could have something like we would call a little bit of a baby boom from natural disasters, or perhaps celebrations, who knows? Every once in a while, you have a class that has more students than others. Overall, we're trending about steady. We tend to have about 1,200 students in district. Right now, we fall a little bit under that with about 1,100 students at this time. When we come to a crossroads where we have an unusual number of students in the classroom, we really do need to look at what services we can offer within that cohort. Pete really nailed it in terms of being able to make sure that we provide services that don't water down instruction. And for that, we're really grateful not only to our teachers, but our teacher aides, our teacher assistants and aides. We have a lot of professionals that work on grade level to make sure that instruction doesn't get watered down. And in the beginning of the year, if time provides, we have made accommodations to break a class of 2 into a class of 3, or a grade of 2 classes into a grade of 3 classes. Sometimes it's just not the case, and time doesn't allow for it.
I think balanced classes is essential. You need to have it. Otherwise, you're not reaching all of the students. When you have increased class size, somewhere, someone's getting lost. And we don't want that to happen. Not here, not in East Rockaway. Our kids should never wind up just being pushed along, because they need to have the instruction, and they need to make sure that all kids are being reached in the classroom. Unfortunately, when you have overcrowding in a class, it just doesn't happen. And we want to make sure that each kid is given the opportunity to meet those goals and to move ahead.
Teresa Devlin.
I have to agree with everyone else at the table. It needs to be looked at as a grade by grade occurrence, whatever the enrollment is. I know that I can only speak at RAIM at this point, but I know that in my younger son's class that it's like a dream grade with 17 kids in each class. So I would think it has to be looked at if there are more than a certain amount of children in a class, that you do need to look at whether it's a teacher assistant or splitting another grade, or they need to be creative when the time comes, depending on what the numbers are at that point.
Our next question is, right now, all 3 schools are on one social media account. Would you look for ways to enable teachers to have their own customizable web page? Start with Kristen O'Hagan. Oh no, excuse me. Let's start with Kristen Octera.
It happens all the time. So yeah, all 3 schools are on one social media account because we have one school district account. However, we do have opportunities in district as it is to get information that's a little bit more tailored to your child's classroom, or even perhaps the PTAs that have separate web pages. So information floats in many different ways. I think that this is something that we're looking at in district now, because we want to make sure that we provide teachers with resources to take advantage of technology, to be able to connect with their students in multiple ways, and be able to get parents on board and seeing what's going on in the classroom. So one of the initiatives that we're looking at is to create spaces online through social media applications or through our website, to reconfigure the website to make sure that each school is reflected with its own personality. Because while we are one district, and sometimes we get confused in that, especially because, like we mentioned before, our district offices are within the high school building, sometimes it gets very muddy. All 3 of our buildings have very distinct, unique personalities. And it would be nice to be able to reflect that in a way that protects not only the students and the families, but also protects the teachers with their interactions. So we encourage teachers to take use of technology, but we want to do it in a way that puts the onus on the district and instead of their personal accounts.
Kristen O'Hagan.
I think that the school district does need to have a common account with all 3 schools, but as Kristen said, they all need to have their own individuality. I think that if you wind up having personal accounts, then that runs into a little bit of a sticky situation sometimes. And we want to make sure that everything educational remains with the school. And that you do have teachers that use other outlets, such as Remind. Some teachers do use an Edmodo classroom where they're able to have a blog with their students. So by offering those different technological aspects, they're able to make it their own, yet have one unified school district account.
Teresa Devlin.
I do agree that it is important that the district have one account for mass and general information. I do know that some teachers, I know in the younger grades, they use things like Class Dojo, where you get updates on your child's class. They can tell you about the field trips and pictures and things like that. I know the PTA uses Remind. I think some other teachers use Remind as well. But I do think it is important for there to be the one large page for everybody to get the same information, because you can get a lot of misinformation on social media as well. So it's kind of important to have a main source where you can go and get information from.
I agree. I think the school has to have one main source. Everyone had their own different things. That could cause a problem. That could cause confusion. It could cause bigger problems than that. For a little bit, like I use Remind for my track team to tell them when practice is, or if it's canceled, or if a meet was canceled, or whatever. We use it for a lot of different things. But for a whole district, I think it has to be centralized. We're lucky we have the best technology director on all of Long Island, Lee Rath, so he'll figure something out.
Next question, please give an example of a Board of Education decision you disagree with and why. Begin with Kristen O'Hagan.
Presently, I can't say that there is necessarily a Board of Education decision that I disagree with. I think that they have done a great job with the budget. I think that they have increased programming for our kids. I think that we just need to make sure on a board that the board is maintaining fiscal responsibility. So I think that ensuring that taxpayer dollars are spent properly, that would definitely be something that I would want the board to do. As far as a decision, presently, I do not disagree with anything they have done.
Teresa Devlin?
I can't really say that I disagree with any decision per se, but I always think that there is room for improvement and some maybe more creative solutions to things. I do know I've said in private and to Board of Ed members, and I even said in a public board meeting, that I just wish the district would try to utilize groups and organizations that are already in place instead of creating new groups and committees.
Next, Peter.
In the board's vision statement, setting a course for excellence, I read through the achievement, opportunity, connection, and innovation, and I think the board has done an unbelievable job with achievement, opportunity, and innovation. The thing that I think, the connection part, in talking to a lot of community members, there was the same concern that kept coming up, and that was that they were not being heard. It kept coming up over and over again, that their voice just wasn't being heard. And I think that's the one part that, it's not really a decision on a thing, but it's with the board, with the vision. I think the connection could be strengthened a little bit.
Kristen O'Hara.
So this might be the hardest question I've ever been asked in my whole tenure as a board member. And I think that it's because we've worked really, really hard to come to consensus on our decisions. And so at this, I'm almost shell-shocked, because at this point I'm trying to think of a decision the board has made and I haven't agreed with and why. And I know that there have been a lot of conversations that I have been annoying at because I ask so many questions. And I just keep going over and over and over it until I really understand clearly what it is we're driving at. And part of my training as a board member and part of the respect that we try and cultivate amongst the trustees is the idea that we all have an equal voice that comes to the table. And now when we have our disagreements from time to time about approach or about message, that we work it through so that it becomes something that the entire board as a unit can support. And so this question is really difficult for me to answer, because I know that there are things that have put me on my heels over the past 9 years. There are things that looking back on, I could say, boy, that was ill-conceived. Like Princeton plan was ill-conceived. But I think in terms of a decision, it would be hard to point one out, because we work really hard to build consensus.
The next question is, a recent Board of Education meeting passed a vote to hire a chemistry tutor. Did you or would you have agreed? And the first person is Teresa Devlin.
I think anything that helps our students, I would agree to. If they're falling below the curve and they need help, they need to come up with a creative solution to help the students. Otherwise, we don't need students failing a subject. If it's there's a math problem, then we need to have a solution. I think that the tutoring, I've heard rumblings of complaints of tutoring after school, it interferes with sports, but it's there for the student who wants it and needs it to be successful in their class.
Peter Pimentel?
Absolutely, the students need whatever they can get as far as instruction goes. So if they need that extra help, we need to provide that for them. The only concern I have is, was the position offered to the teachers first, the teachers who work here? That I don't know. So I think that might be the only concern, but as far as offering it to the students, I think that's a no-brainer. If we can do that for them, we have to do that.
Kristen Nanterra?
So I was part of that decision, and I was in support of it, and I'll tell you why. Because we were able to provide the service with no additional cost or impact to the budget for this year. We were able to provide that service in a way that was going to supplement what they were doing in class. That resolution seemed like a reasonable one to be able to not only address the needs of the students in the classroom, but the needs of the students in preparing for their final examinations. And I didn't think that it set a bad precedent in terms of undermining the teacher's authority in the classroom, nor did I think, or actually I know that it didn't undermine any contractual obligations that we had with the teachers unit. So I think it was a good decision. I think it was a responsible decision for the students in that grade, and I would absolutely vote to do it again.
Kristen O'Hagan?
So I think anytime we can support students, I think that is a wonderful initiative. And I personally know the chemistry tutor, and she's phenomenal at her job. That being said, my first question when I was at the board meeting was this something that could have been handled in-house first? And if so, great, and if not, why? Why weren't we able to handle it with teachers that were here, that we're already paying for? But I also want to point out that we can't assume that every child can show up after school for that extra help. So is that providing equality for every student? Kids have responsibilities. Some of them have to care for younger siblings. Some of them go home and they cook dinner because they have parents that are working and they're working late. Some of them have jobs after school. So we want to make sure that we are at least offering equal opportunity for all students that are in that subject area.
The next question is, where or how do charter schools fit into the future of public education? And that will be Peter Navy.
Well, as a public school teacher myself, I'm not a fan of charter schools. I think the public education system is the best education system that there is. Charter schools, the conditions there, I guess for the students it's one thing, but for the teachers, the turnover rate is so much, the conditions are so bad, the turnover rate is so high that has to affect the students. And so I don't know what will happen with charter schools down the road, but I know they can't compete with public education, and you can tell Governor Cuomo that.
So I have the opportunity to work with several charter schools in my professional life, both through Beautiful Me, which is a program that I bring to students across the island and the tri-state area, but also across the country with my work that I do for Go Campusing. It's a college tour company. So I've been able to work with charter schools across the country and been in that. My biggest concern with charter schools is that they siphon money away from public schools. And so I'm a Board of Education trustee for the East Rockaway School District because I believe wholeheartedly that the greatest gift that America gave its country is public education. The means to educate every citizen in the country is one of our most valuable assets. So my concern about charter schools is that they siphon money away from public schools and they are not held to the same accountability standards. If the standards were the same and the money was given equally, I'm all for different forms of education if that's what works. But as it stands now, I actually view them as a danger to our public education system.
Christina Hagan.
I actually have to echo both Peter and Kristen, because as a public educator, I am not in support of charter schools. And I do think that they're not held to the same standards that we hold our kids to in a public school system. And if they are taking funding away from our kids, then that's a problem. So I do not support the charter education.
Teresa Devlin.
I have to agree also. The charter schools would only take away from what our schools have to offer. It would eliminate funding from the public schools it would take away from our programs. I think that a charter school may have its place in another neighborhood, another area, another state. But here on Long Island, I don't believe in charter schools. I'm a firm believer in public education.
Okay, the next question is, consider the many accomplishments of the current Board of Education and Administration. Select one and discuss how you would be part of its continued success. And we'll begin with Christina Patera.
All right. Well, that's easy because luckily I've been involved with this Board of Education for 9 years. So the fact that you're asking about our accomplishments is a compliment, and I appreciate that. And on behalf of the Board of Education, I thank you for the compliments. I think one of the biggest things we've been able to achieve over the past several years is the recovery from Sandy, combined with the building of our strategic plan. And I think those two things in tandem have taken this district to competitive level, both academically and socially and reputation-wise, that we have not seen in the past. So I'm very proud that we are not only be able to be resilient after the storm, but we're actually taking a no move backwards mentality to continue that progress moving forward. And I think that the administration that we have in place is gelling and is put together an amazing team. And I am very, very happy about the way our budgeting has been consistently reliable under the tax cap, meeting we're below this year. This year we're below the tax cap. So I think we're doing this in a way that's fiscally responsible and actually groundbreaking for our reputation amongst Nassau County schools.
Christina Hagan.
When I think about the accomplishments of the East Rockaway School District, I think about the innovation in the 5-year strategic plan. The one-to-one initiative, the use of technology, it has just been increasing over the last few years. But even more so, I think about a year ago when we sat in this very room to discuss the safety of our schools. And I think within 1 year, the way in which safety has been approached within the district has been phenomenal. The fact that we have man traps in all the schools, that we have the security guards, that we have the night watch and the video cameras, the fact that we are performing drills, it's phenomenal. As an educator, as a teacher in the schools, and it's a scary time for our kids to be in schools seeing what's happening, I am comfortable that my kids are in a safe environment on a daily basis.
Teresa Devlin.
The strategic plan is a great start that's been put in place. And I continue to be impressed by the amount of classes, services, electives, clubs, materials that have been added for these students with each passing budget, all while staying under the tax cap. I think that they've been very fiscally responsible. I was sitting at a budget advisory meeting, and one of the things that Ms. Griot presented was that there was a buyback program through BOCES, that if you purchase equipment through BOCES, that you get money back. And I thought that was such a great idea. And I was like, well, how long has this program been around? And it had always been around, but the school district just wasn't taking advantage of it. So I think, I really think that that was a really creative way.
Peter? Kristen and I were just talking last night about the strategic plan, and especially the innovation. And East Rockaway has come such a long way. We were both saying how safe it is for our kids, especially with the new security measures at the front doors. We were just talking about that last night. And we were both very, very impressed with the innovation, like the one-to-one tablets. It's come so far since my kids started here 9 years ago, and it's great to see. So definitely the innovation is part of the strategic plan.
What is the one thing you would like to see accomplished in our school district within the next 3 years if you are elected to the board? And we'll begin with Kristen O'Hagan.
Like I said before, I definitely would like to see more mental health initiatives, but even more so than that, I would like to see that we are accommodating all of our students, especially your 80% in the middle. I think that we offer a lot of college level programs, we offer a lot of support, but we want our region level kids to also be given the opportunity to set goals, and we want to get them to reach their goals by offering the support that they need. And I would like to see that come to fruition as the years progress. And I think that the 6-day schedule, the cycle, will wind up allowing for that continued support for kids to continue succeeding and achieving in their schedules.
Teresa Devon.
Like I said before, I really would love to be able to explore cost-effective electronic options for e-payments, because we get all the phone calls saying that your kid's balance is low in the cafeteria. It would be great to be able to just call and put it on your, be able to take care of that. I also think that we really need to focus on the kids that are in the center of the curve. I think with the 6-day cycle, I think all Regions classes should be given a lab to go along with it, so to ensure, that they would be able to pass. I think that if a kid needs a study hall to catch up, that they should have that, and I think that I'm excited to see this 6-day cycle over the next year to see how that would improve things.
Peter McNally.
Yeah, I would love to see the board and the district foster a greater relationship with the community. More of a give and take relationship. There's a lot of people who feel that they don't have a voice. And that's kind of one of the big reasons that I stepped out of my comfort zone to try to do this. And we have such a great district. I'm looking at the strategic plan right now, and all of these things going well. And I think the connection part, if that can be strengthened just a bit, it would go such a long way. Everyone would feel connected then. So whether I get elected or not, that is something that, at least I put it out there that I think my voice was heard, and hopefully whoever gets elected will take that into consideration, because I think we would go from a great district to the best district. I think that's the only thing missing.
Kristen Montero.
I absolutely agree with Pete in that the area that we're finding the most growth at this point is in that communication area with the 5-year plan. This year we formed a communication committee, and it was enlightening, the feedback that the board received, that a lot of the information that was brought to the table were things that the district was doing and that community members were not necessarily aware that we were doing. And so some of the ideas that were brought to the table were easily checked off because they had been happening in districts, and we weren't doing a good job of communicating how we were doing that, or we weren't doing a good job communicating it across the board. If you were in the know, you knew it, but if you weren't, we weren't getting the right information out there. And maybe that speaks to our challenge before, the question before about what the biggest challenges that faces is to get the right information out across the community so that we don't have a miscommunication, or we don't have a group of people that feel like they're not being heard. The district really is successful when your voice is heard. So the steering committee, the strategic planning committee was vital in the growth of the plan and the growth of the district. And I would like to see that continue. I very much look forward to working on the second 5-year plan. And hopefully I'll be elected to do that because I'm very proud of the role that I've had over the past 9 years in seeing this district grow.
In the past few years, there has been an overwhelming amount of staff that has left the district. What would you do as a board member to ensure that we do not have a revolving door? And that would be Teresa Devlin.
I think that personnel issues are private. I think that in East Rockaway, our district is very small and there aren't many moves up. Most moves would be lateral. So I think that if a person had an opportunity to move on and better themselves, we can't really fault them. I don't really think that we have a revolving door here. I think that when somebody retires after 30 years, 20 years, I think that's wonderful and speaks volumes about the successful employment that they had. But I think to talk about personnel issues, that's really really between them and their superintendent, their boss, the head of their department. I don't really like to suppose on personnel issues.
While I do agree with a lot of the stuff Teresa said, people just want to be treated with, they want an atmosphere of mutual respect. And any great organization has that atmosphere. I was watching a video with my students about Google, and the CEO of Google said, they asked him, how do you get the best people and retain them? And he said, we treat them the way they want to be treated. And I think that's it. And I think it goes back to the communication and the connection. Again, I think there are so many wonderful things going on here. I think that's the only one component, and it can be fixed.
So I think that I am in an uncomfortable position of understanding why people have left the district over the years, because I have been privy to all of the various reasons why people have left the district over the years, and I don't think that it would be responsible of me to share their information with you. I do understand that there's a perception that people are fleeing the district, and that is just not correct information. There are multiple reasons why people choose to remain in East Rockaway to teach or to serve in administrative roles, and there are multiple reasons why people have left. I will not argue with you that there is a big change that has happened in East Rockaway over the last several years, and that happens whenever there's a change in administration. But there have been offices in this district that have had a revolving door of supervision in them for as long as I've been involved in the community. And so for us, a concern that we have always had in terms of the board is to make sure that we provide placement for people to come in, bring their talents, learn their skills, I should say sharpen their skills, and really learn their trade, and then stay here to implement it. So while there's a perception that people are leaving, and it's for multiple reasons, the reality is East Rockaway has always been a training ground for people to move on. And I think that now that everybody is starting to settle into their roles and we're in another settling period, I think that will continue to grow and serve us in a positive way.
Christina.
So I'm going to answer this question through the lens of an educator and what we look for to enable us to remain within a district. And it really all starts with our leaders and feeling supported and feeling valued and feeling that our voices matter, feeling that we are respected. And I think that's all that teachers want. And I think that if they have that, then they wouldn't choose to leave. Some might leave in order to better their careers, and that obviously must be respected. But East Rockaway was always a district that was a home. It was never a stepping stone for anybody. And we want to make sure that we maintain that culture as a board because our kids are here and we want it to feel like their home. And their teachers are like their second parents who are taking care of them on a daily basis. So we want to make sure that we maintain those relationships.
Next question is, what are your plans for moving the district forward while protecting the taxpayers? Peter, first.
Well, we need to balance curriculum with extracurricular activities and instruction, and it all has to be balanced into the budget. So, but we need to make sure that we are getting to the whole child. Again, back to the mental health stuff, and everything is child-centered. So, it's about balancing. We need to balance we need to balance instruction, extracurricular activities, and that's it. It's all about balance. We need to balance everything.
Christina Otero.
My plan would be to continue doing exactly what I'm doing right now. Over the past 9 years, there is no conflict in this statement. We have moved the district forward, and we have been responsible to taxpayers. So if it's not broken, I'm not gonna fix it. That's what we would continue to do.
Moving forward, we need to keep offering opportunity for our kids for achievement. We need to make sure that we are reevaluating all of our programs and that we are making sure that we are spending our money responsibly. We also need to make sure that by protecting our taxpayers, we are involving all individuals of the community. Not all people in the community have kids here, so we want to make sure that they are aware of how their money is being spent as well.
Teresa?
I think long-term, we need to prepare our students to go out in the world, whether it's for a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, or directly into the workforce. Not every kid is going to go to college. We need to prepare everyone for the future, and we need to realize that we are raising people, and we need to have all the services and everything that they need to grow.
Next question is, as a parent of a special education student, I would like to know what the candidates know about the special education program in our district. We'll begin with Christina Otero.
Okay, so our special education program is a wide and vast program. It has multiple prongs. Special education applies to our most challenged learners, and it also applies to some of our, what you would call successful learners. Special education is a broad spectrum area. But that being said, the district has always been able to identify trends and needs in our special education population. We started inclusion model classrooms a long time ago and have been visited by other districts to look in and see how to implement their programs. We have taken our students from placements outside the district and we have brought them back into our district through our life skills program, and we have been able to provide them with rich opportunities as they move forward. I think our special education program is an area that we're actually succeeding a lot in, and I'm very proud of the name that we have built for ourselves amongst other districts throughout the island.
Christina O'Hagan.
So we do have various special education programs, such as the life skills program, such as the unified basketball program. And we also have our inclusion classes. I teach an inclusion class. I know what it means to make sure I am knowledgeable about my students' accommodations, that I am following those accommodations, and that they are receiving the help that they should be receiving. Additionally, I sat in on numerous CSE meetings as a general education teacher, and I'm there as an advocate for the student, how they can best be accommodated and how they are doing in the classroom at that time. This year, I sat in on my first 504 meeting advocating for my son, so I was a parent, and that was a whole different realm. And I have to be honest, if I wasn't an educator, and if I didn't know what it was I should be asking for, I wouldn't have known what to even do in that meeting. So I think that we need to educate parents a little bit more so on the process and let them know what they are entitled to receive those accommodations.
Teresa Devlin?
I have firsthand experience as a special ed parent. My son, my second child, Joseph, is autistic, and he is in the life skills program, graduating from it this year. As a foster parent, many kids that come into my home and go out to schools, they have learning disabilities, and I've made it my business to be very educated in the special ed area. I'm the district parent for CSE and CPSE meetings. I know a lot about special ed from a parent's point of view and also as an advocate point of view. I accompany parents to their meetings. So East Rockaway School District, they do special ed very well as far as accommodating services. My son was educated out of district until he came here in 7th grade for the life skills class. And it was growing pains, and I learned a lot, and I think the school district learned a lot from me as well. So I feel parents do need to know more about it, and they need to have an advocate on their side for sure.
Peter McNally?
Most of my technology classes and a number of our inclusion classes with special education students. So I sit on a lot of CSE meetings. I'm always looking at their accommodations, and we have to do things differently. I'm kind of lucky in my class, it's a project-based class, so there's no testing going on. It's all, their grading is based on their projects. But the special education students, they need a voice, and I think East Rockaway does a great job of it. I know parents with special ed students, and they're very happy with all the programs with special ed, and I think they're doing a great job.
Next question is, remembering that you are 1/5 of every Board of Education decision, how do you plan to work collegially with your 4 other board members for the good of all the children of the school district on every issue for the next 3 years? And then we begin with Kristen Hagan.
First and foremost, I have a vested interest in the decisions that are made because I still have children within this district. And I also think that it's a collaborative nature. I served the village as a recreation director, and I had to collaborate with the village board, with other department heads. In my job as an educator, I have to collaborate with my members of my department, with members outside of my department. And we work together for the common good. And that's exactly what we would be doing as a board. You're working to make sure you are providing the best opportunities for the children. And that is what needs to be kept in mind.
Teresa?
I think I always work well with other people. I always value other people's input. I think it's important to be willing to receive what the other person is offering, as well as being able to vocalize what you need to say. As 1/5 of the board, I have a vested interest. My younger 2 are still in school here. My youngest will be here for many years. And I look forward to seeing firsthand the programs that are being implemented, to actually see them being implemented, being able to actually be able to testament to that.
Peter McNally?
I think the 2 big words are collaborate and compromise. No 5 people are going to agree on everything, but everyone needs to remember that it's for the good of the children of East Rockaway. So you have to value other people's decisions, you have to value their opinions, and you need to collaborate with each other. And there has to be some kind of compromise, because it's just impossible for 5 people to agree on everything. And I think if everyone goes in with the mindset that it's for the children, that you will just do that. You'll collaborate and compromise.
Kristen Natera.
9 years ago, I was asked a very similar question to this, and I answered it in a completely different way, because 9 years ago, I really did think that I had a lot of answers. Through my PTA experience, I thought I had my finger on the pulse of what everybody needed in this community, and I thought I had a great vision for the district. And what I quickly learned was, as 1 out of 5 trustees, that my vision, although it was important, it really wasn't what the district needed. The district needed my perspective. And it's a very different thing from cultivating my own ideas and forcing them upon the other 4 members of the Board of Education. My experience has taught me that perspective is vitally important to the success, to my success as a trustee. It's also taught me that the 4 other people that you are talking with have an imagination and a dedication that is equal to yours. And it has been a very, very wonderful relationship in learning how to work collegially with 4 other people that come from very different backgrounds. So I would like to finish up by saying that I do have a unique perspective to bring to the Board of Education, but I think one of my strengths is that I have been trained over the past 9 years by many, many, many other trustees that I have respected and learned from, with the gifts that they've brought to the table as well.
The school district has made a big push for AP students and special needs programs. As a parent of a regular student, I am concerned that her needs are not addressed. Are you prepared to look at the needs of all students? Teresa Devlin.
Definitely. I have always said that I've always felt that there was a group of children that sometimes were just invisible. And those sometimes are the kids that you need to address. I remember when my daughter was in 10th grade, I found out that only the gifted children were taking the PSATs. And when I asked why was that, I was told because they had the skills to practice being able to take a practice test. And I felt that if I wanted to spend $25 to have my middle of the road child practice on a test, she should be able to take the test. Unfortunately, that year it was too late and my daughter was unable to take the test, but I did advocate for all students in that grade to be able to take the test. So I think it's really important to focus on those kids that are in the middle of the road so they don't get lost, so they're not invisible.
Next is Peter McNally.
I think high-quality professional development for teachers will help a lot to get those middle-of-the-road kids to be seen. Sometimes the teachers, they need to see a different way to do things. And sometimes the best professional development is the classroom next door. I think teachers should always go and see how other teachers do things. The best professional development I get is when I go and see other technology teachers and how they do things and how they interact with kids. And that is the best way to see it. Sometimes when you see someone else do something a different way, something clicks. And you might not be reaching a kid. When you see someone else do it a different way, that works. So I really think high quality professional development helps in so many ways.
Kristen Natera.
Thank you. So one of my pet peeves, and I'll actually talk very personally right here, is the idea that AP classes are the be-all and end-all to your child's education. Because personally, I have to tell you that it's baloney. I would use other language if we weren't in a public forum. But I think that that's a part of education that has been started to take over by corporate mindset. So one of the things that we try to balance on the Board of Education is giving our children access to college level classes and also giving because that gives them the opportunity to visualize themselves in a college setting. You remember speaking to students that said, wow, I went to college and I wasn't prepared because I didn't realize how much writing there was going to be. Or I went to college and I wasn't prepared because I didn't realize how much time I was going to have to be able to do something. So giving students the access to college level classes is vitally important because it gives them the idea to know, like, I could do this. I have options. However, I do have to say that one of the initiatives that East Rockaway has taken over the years is our accessibility to classes that are done in conjunction with universities, so that we give our regular classes and our teachers have taken the extra step to be certified or be recognized. They share their curriculum with Syracuse or Adelphi or University SUNY Albany, and then their class gets our students college credit. And that fits two bills. It keeps us out of the corporate universe, it keeps us competitive, and you actually get to keep those college credits. That is my very personal, humble opinion out there for you tonight.
Chanel Bacon, please.
I actually agree with what Kristen is saying, and I teach AP. And I will say that I teach a research course that I think would be beneficial for every single student that is college bound, because it is teaching them the skill that they need. They're pretty much, in essence, writing a dissertation at the high school level. And the process is just phenomenal. Being able to mirror a course like that, college level, for all kids would be beneficial. And it doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be labeled AP. It should be for every kid. It's something that I would love to see my own child have the ability to take, because I think it does prepare the college-bound individual. Additionally, opening up more programming for kids that might not be going to college is something that the district is moving towards with that Universal Accelerated Program. And I think that that would help them as well.
The last question for tonight is, the PTA's invitation for tonight's event states members of the Board of Education should be broad and diverse, reflecting various points of view within the community. What does diversity mean to you, and how could you bring a diverse perspective to our school board? First question is answered Peter McNally.
Well, diversity, we all see diversity every day. I do think it's important to have diversity on a school board because you need different opinions. But I do think that people that are, I don't know, but by diverse, it could be race, it could be religion, it could be a whole bunch of different things. But I do think that I don't think that diversity, you have to have diversity to have a good school board, but diversity can add an element. I don't think a school board is predicated on being diverse or not being diverse. I think it's predicated on being able to collaborate your ideas and compromise and come to what's good for the children of East Rockaway.
To kind of take that line of reasoning and clarify it a little bit in my own mind, I clearly do not bring diversity in terms of an ethnic background or racial backgrounds, and I don't ask anybody what their religious background is, or gender, mindsets, or anything. But the thing about it is, diversity of thought on the board is very important. And so while I want to be able to bring my unique experiences as a human to the decisions that I make, it's not just me that these programs would affect, it's the entire student body. So it's important to get input from all the stakeholders in the district. It's important to be open-minded to the plight of others. A lot of the critiques that have gone around, or a lot of the statements that have gone around in recent years, are the necessity to have board members that have students in the school district. And that's something that I understand why that seems to be important, but I have to disagree. because if I was just concerned with my two students as they went through the East Rockaway School District, I would be eliminating the 1,100 plus other school district students that were going through the program also. Diversity of thought is vitally important because your perspective lends itself to making sure that your decisions are made across the spectrum of experiences that will happen in our schools. And so for that, I do think that I bring a diversity of thought. I bring experience to the board. I bring the opportunity to see things from different perspectives.
Kristen O'Hagan.
When I think about that word diverse, I think about how is that word defined. To me, it is the different hats that we wear on a daily basis and the ability to see issues through different lenses. When I think about the hats that I wear, I am a community member, I'm a mother, I'm a working mother, I am an educator, and I create relationships within this community. So in order to make sure that I have a diverse background, I am looking at issues as that mother, as that educator, as that taxpayer, and I'm able to make informed decisions because of that.
Teresa Dillon.
I think that diversity is important, especially in today's world. Diversity is really about having an open mind. I mean, I have diversity in my family. I expect there's diversity out in the world. I think that the board currently has 4 educators on it, and I think I'm the only candidate that has a business degree. I'm not sure if having all educators on a board where they're, helping negotiate teachers' contracts, I'm not sure how that would affect the taxpayers. I don't know how comfortable I feel with that. But I do think that diversity really is about your open mind, and your willingness to receive and expend information. So as long as your mind is diverse, I think that that's important.
We're now going to hear the candidates' closing statements. Each statement will be limited to 2 minutes, and the timekeeper will tell you when you have 30 seconds left. And then you must stop. If the stop sign goes up and you're in the middle of a sentence, feel free to finish the sentence. I have had experiences where people stop in the middle of a word, and that's really not necessary. Yeah, finish the thought. The last will go first, and that's Teresa Devlin.
If you leave here this evening with only one takeaway, please know that I promise you all that I am running for the right reasons, with the best of intentions for the students of East Rockaway, and provide them with greater opportunities while being fiscally responsible to the taxpayers of our community. I hope tonight you have gotten to know me better and know that I am motivated to improve our children's education. I keep hearing that we need to get back on track, but back on track shouldn't mean living in the past or stopping the clock or reversing a course to a time when our students had less and our taxes were still high. Our district and our town is unique, yes, but that doesn't mean our students don't need to be prepared to compete out in the world. Every person who works in our school buildings, from administration to monitors, is protected by a contract and/or a union. Students and families need advocates too, and I feel like I am more than capable to do that. If your question was not answered tonight, please post it to my Facebook page and I will personally answer it for you. Your children and this community are too important to not have your voices heard. I want you to feel confident when you vote for me on Tuesday that you know what you are getting. I ask for your vote on May 21st, and I thank you for the time you've given us this evening.
Thank you. Peter McNally?
Okay. First, I would like to thank the League of Women's Voters for making this evening possible. I would especially like to thank Kristen, and Teresa. I would like to thank everyone here who took out time from their busy schedules to come out and listen to our views and ideas. I know all of us want what is best for the children of East Rockaway. We might not agree completely on how to get there, but I know we all agree that the children do come first. I did a great deal of reflecting before deciding to take on the challenge of running for the school board. It is not something I take lightly. I listened to the concerns of many community members. When I finally chose to take on this endeavor, it was mainly to help strengthen the communication between the board and the community. I'm so proud to call East Rockaway home. Taking on this challenge has completely brought me out of my comfort zone. However uncomfortable it may feel to me at times, I know it is the right thing to do. I now have a newfound admiration and respect for the people who volunteer their time to try and make our schools the best they can be. The entire community deserves a chance to be heard. It is my sincere hope that whoever is elected puts a priority on a stronger partnership with this great community and help to foster an atmosphere of mutual respect among all members of the East Rockaway School community. Thank you.
Christina Terra.
My closing statement for this evening is relatively simple. The growth that I have experienced as a representative for this community on the school board has been one of the most rewarding parts of my life. You have let me work with your friends, your spouses, your nieces, yourselves in many ways. This community is a vital part of the work that happens in the district. I have been honored to be a leader on the board and a leader in your community. The one thing that I want to leave you with tonight is I have weighed this decision to run for a 4th term. And at times I thought that I could give it up easily. At times I thought maybe I don't have anything else to give to this district. But then I went out and I delivered programming to students in districts across the island. And I visited schools in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. Then I went to colleges and universities across the country. And I stepped into labs, and I stepped into classrooms, and I saw what was out there. And I thought this is an important perspective to bring back to East Rockaway. The idea that what we're doing in this district is really good. We have leadership in this district that is committed to the education of every student that walks through our classrooms. We have people who give their time and their talents every day that come to these buildings, whether they feel good or not on that particular day, and they give everything for our students. And our students are receiving the benefits of that dedication. I like to take a little bit of credit for the work that we've done over the past 9 years, because I have been an advocate for your students. And if you elect me, I will continue to be an advocate for your students.
Christina Kagan.
I would like to thank Pete, Kristen, and Teresa for participating in tonight's event. I have gained an appreciation for this process and a respect for anyone that has the desire and courage to dedicate their time and energy to serving the district. I would like to thank the East Rockaway School District for providing me with the foundation that allowed me to discover my passion and instilling in me a respect and admiration for public education. Working together, we can all share in the knowledge and satisfaction that we have provided for the educational needs of all children. In our community, all students, parents, teachers, and staff should feel they are welcome and that they belong. Everybody is somebody in East Rockaway. I would like the opportunity to come full circle and give service back to this community, to be involved in continuing to maintain the beauty of past traditions with hope for future innovation. I ask for your support because I am running for something, for the best educational experience possible for our students, for my love of the school district and my love of the community. It would be an honor to serve as a Board of Education trustee. Thank you.
And thank you, all of you. I especially want to thank the audience who asked so many excellent questions. And thank you, candidates, for sharing your views. Have a good night and safe home, everyone. Don't forget